Back in my day, in the 2000s, there was a game for everything. If a big new movie came out, it probably had a video game tied to it, and there were even TV shows that got their own games just because they were popular. And dare I mention the licensed games based on snacks? A lot of these licensed games have two things in common: being shameless cash grabs and being not very good, which pretty much go hand in hand. They were mostly meant to make a quick profit, so there was an often observable lack of effort or creativity. To be fair, there are licensed games out there that are legitimately really good, but they're not nearly as common. On a more positive note though, just because a game is technically quote-unquote bad, even if just by today's standards, that doesn't mean it can't be enjoyed. There's something charming about the licensed games era that's kind of hard to put my finger on, and at the least, even if one of those games is really truly awful, if you're lucky, maybe you can still get a laugh out of it. So today, I'm going to dive into the licensed games dumpster to see what I can find. For the PS2 specifically, whether it be good, ironically good, or just plain bad. Wish me luck.
The video game you are about to play is extremely unpleasant.
In a series of unfortunate events, the Baudelaire siblings, Violet, Klaus, and Sunny, find themselves living with an evil man called Count Olaf after the deaths of their parents, and he's after their fortune by any means necessary. This game is based off the movie, which is based off the book series, which was quite dark despite being aimed towards kids. However, it did also have its fair share of whimsical quirks, like the baby sibling Sunny having insane teeth that can bite through almost anything. Actually, all of the siblings have their own talents, with Violet having a knack for inventions, a lot of inventions, and Klaus being incredibly book smart. As someone who really loves the books and even liked the movie a fair bit, I can't say while playing this game for the first time that I felt like it really captured the elements of what made the series great. While the movie did a decent enough job of adapting the first few books, the game does a mediocre at best job of adapting the movie. It feels really soulless to me, and the quirkiness feels like it's been forcibly dialed up to 11.
Stick a fork in me.
I know, I'm not the target audience, but as a longtime fan at least, this just feels off. And I mean, just generally speaking, the game is bad and not in a fun way. The combat, which you'll use Klaus for a lot of the time, is really frustrating, especially since he's meant to be the brains of the group, so why is he the muscle here? And especially against rats, of which there are many, it's hard to actually even hit them and the camera does no favors. A lot of time is spent gathering items for Violet's inventions, which are needed to progress, and it gets really repetitive. And also, for some reason, there's a mandatory rhythm game where you have to play the same song 3 times in a row as it gets ever so slightly faster. It's just kind of a mess. The only thing this game really has going for it is Jim Carrey, who plays Count Olaf in the movie, actually did record lines for this, which is cool, and Tim Curry voices the narrator, but that's about it. I don't want to spend too much time dunking on this game, but yeah, you couldn't pay me to play this again. I really loved the books growing up, so playing this game was like watching a total bastardization of everything I ever loved. I can't do this shit anymore. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is based off the movie, which is based off the book of the same name. Taking place during World War II, the Pevensey siblings are evacuated to the British countryside after a bombing in their hometown, where they stumble upon the magical world of Narnia hidden in the back of an old wardrobe. Each of the siblings, Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy, is playable and has different abilities, and you switch between them as needed to progress. The game will explicitly tell you which sibling you need to play as to be able to move forward, which I mean, fiery pits aside, it is a kid's game, so that makes sense. Each sibling can engage in combat, most notably Susan does this, which is kinda sick. Whoa, buddy! You can use their combat skills not just against enemies, but to break down doors or clear obstacles as necessary too. And after first arriving in Narnia, we also learn how to do a team up, so if we press the triangle button while next to a sibling, we can do all kinds of special moves, like throwing Lucy at giant chunks of ice, which is in fact necessary, in case you were wondering. I'm going on about the mechanics and such because honestly, they're very funny, but not in a bad way. It was legitimately what made the game stand out for me because there's something really amazingly goofy about what was supposed to be a realistic 3D child doing whatever this is. There's something lovably and unintentionally comical about just about everything here, even the pretty egregious use of FMV because ultimately it gives us these incredible transitions. Even some of the sound effects are hilarious.
No backdoors.
It's just really extra and I love it. The only thing for me was the gameplay itself just wasn't super enjoyable after a point, and the most frustrating part was this fight in the game where you're being attacked by a constant influx of wolves and you've got to use Susan and Lucy's abilities to block off the caves they're coming out of. Susan has the ability to aim and throw projectiles, and that part was simple to figure out. Likewise, Lucy can crawl into small spaces, so I thought, oh, look at this very obvious opening I could probably crawl into, let me give that a shot. No, wrong, I'm an idiot, and you're supposed to crawl into the less obvious opening next to it. I mean, a little less obvious anyway, because looking back now, I can see the opening had the same wooden beams as the area we needed to crawl to, which would be the indicator that that's where you're supposed to go. Personally, I blame the other siblings' AI for being kinda useless in fighting off the wolves while I tried to do all of this in the midst of absolute chaos, so clearly I did nothing wrong. This is where I ended my playthrough out of frustration, and also for the sake of this video not taking a million years, I wasn't planning on playing through the entirety of each game right away anyway, so it is what it is. But even though it's not great in my opinion, and I did get frustrated— what does Lucy do here? Lucy won't crawl in here, so what does she do? She can't get all the way up there, what does it mean? I'd be willing to give this game another try sometime, because I did laugh a lot while playing it, and that's a good thing if you ask me. When I was younger, I really liked The Simpsons. I remember my older cousin introducing it to me, and back then he was the coolest, and me and my younger siblings were always really quick to pick up his interests. But even though I liked the show and watched The Simpsons movie basically on repeat for like a month after it released on DVD, I never played any of the games. And I mean, apparently a lot of them from back then weren't great, but one that I heard a lot of good things about, especially as far as licensed games in general go, is the Simpsons Hit and Run. So this video was the perfect opportunity to finally try it out. Hit and Run's story is definitely of secondary importance to the gameplay, but the general plot is that there is a conspiracy surrounding the release of a new cola that drives people insane, and you play as the Simpsons family and Apu in order to investigate all the strange things happening around Springfield. The real purpose of the game, though, is to basically be like a really wacky, T-rated licensed version of Grand Theft Auto, and it's really fun. The use of the Simpsons license allows for a lot of personality and humor, which say what you want about Simpsons humor, but I think it's pretty funny personally.
Here's your reward. A prayer from the Lord's #1 fan.
And I love that you can wreak absolute havoc with little consequences aside from damaging your vehicle to the point it just straight up explodes. You can run over pedestrians, I mean it is called Hit and Run after all, and it's totally fine, and the game even rewards you with currency for destroying just about anything and everything. That said, it's not a perfect game, like the platforming parts are pretty unenjoyable because the camera is so janky, almost like it's meant to be, you know, a driving game. And the collision while driving could stand to be a little less punishing. Not that I want anything to be easier really, I just think the gameplay coming to a complete halt ruins the fun. The whole point is to be destructive and reckless, and crashing into things is just gonna happen. So it would have been nice for there to be a smoother, more forgiving recovery so you can get back to the chaos sooner. There's also the problem of getting completely stuck, and getting out is either incredibly time-consuming or straight up impossible, but maybe that's just a skill issue on my part. This is definitely a different style of licensed game than the other ones were, to be fair, but Hit and Run was so fun in comparison. A lot of licensed games just directly follow the plot of whatever movie or TV show they're based on, and I don't think it always translates well into a video game. What Hit and Run has going for it is The Simpsons doesn't have an overarching plot, so the devs could just make up a completely insane but ultimately unimportant story that's sole purpose is to drive the gameplay forward. Rather than throwing in frequent and long cutscenes for the sake of reminding you, oh yeah, this is based on a movie, maybe I should go watch that movie, and maybe also for the sake of being faithful to the source material, Hit and Run doesn't worry about that. The Simpsons had been iconic for years by the time this came out, so it's not like they really needed the advertising, and aside from being faithful to long-established characters, they could kinda just do whatever. I think this was more so a game for those who were already fans of the series, so it was less about convincing people to go watch the show so they can make more money, and more about drawing in those existing fans so they could also make more money. Money-driven regardless, yes, obviously, but still I think the approach is different enough to matter. Overall, I had a great time trying this game out for a while, and I'm definitely going to be streaming it until I finished it, though I hear the final mission is super tough, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, I did already play this when I was a kid and I loved it, but I was curious to see how it held up as an adult, so here we are. Spider-Man 2 starring Tobey Maguire is of course based on the 2004 movie also starring Tobey Maguire. Or I mean it's loosely based on it, since I mean where did Black Cat come from?
You always chase girls who brush you off.
Only the naughty ones.
Holy
That's
shit!
standard.
But generally, the plot really needs no introduction because it is mostly the same as the movie, which just about every human on Earth has seen at this point. So let's just get to why this game is actually fun. Because even today it is really fun. Impressively, the game is open world, taking inspiration from Grand Theft Auto 3, which isn't something you'd expect from a movie tie-in game. Even just the idea of making it open world took more thought than was put into the entire series of Unfortunate Events game. Don't mind me, I'm just a bitter old woman. With a huge area to explore comes lots of things to do. There's tons of side missions and bad guys to fight, and sure, after a point some might find it repetitive, but I'd personally be perfectly happy just delivering pizza for hours myself. For me, that's what really makes this game fun. Just exploring and finding things to do, whether you're stopping a robbery, catching a lost balloon, or visiting places like the arcade. There's something really, truly enjoyable about it, even with as dated and limited as this game is. Honestly, the gameplay is so good that the plot is just a nuisance. They could have just made it an open world Spidey game with zero plot or cutscenes and it probably would have been fine, though you wouldn't get as much playtime out of it. But I mean, at least the cutscenes are bad enough to be pretty funny, so I appreciate that. A couple of teeny tiny gripes though. I think the web swinging can be a little annoying and janky at times, though you do get used to it and get ability upgrades along the way to make it a lot more fun. I think it would have been nice for it to just be really fun right from the start. And also the audio mixing is really bad, so some portions of the game like Toby's voiceovers are super quiet while other parts are incredibly loud. And lastly, 99% of the time there's no music of any kind while you're swinging around the city, so that just makes it feel kind of empty and, I don't know, awkward in a way. Though an easy fix for this is to play the pizza delivery theme on repeat while you play because it's peak. But there's not much else to say aside from I really like swinging around and doing random stuff around the city. It's really great and I'll definitely be playing it more. In Coraline, the protagonist Coraline Jones has just moved into a disgusting old Victorian mansion with her less than attentive parents. Coraline eventually wanders through a small door in her house and finds herself in a world that's like an idealized version of her own. These versions of her parents are loving and attentive, but they've got buttons in place of their eyes, and if Coraline wants to stay, she'll need to sew buttons onto her eyes too. In case you didn't know, the story is meant to be pretty creepy. For whatever reason, I went into playing the Coraline game with moderately raised expectations, but yeah, my bad. The game is sadly just incredibly boring and lifeless in comparison to the movie. The vast majority of the time you'll be doing puzzles that even kids would find easy, or even just mundane tasks that take forever because Coraline moves so freaking slow. Like in the movie, Coraline's dad tells her to basically go away and make a list of every blue item in the house in order to keep her busy, which leads to a montage of Coraline exploring her creepy surroundings in a way that shows us a bit more of her personality and the kind of place she's found herself in. In the game, this also happens, but quite literally, you just have to very slowly go around the house and find everything that's blue, because that was a really fun way to do it. The only challenge is the occasional timed objective, which is only difficult because, again, this game moves at a crawl. Even a stealth mission, which you normally would want to move cautiously with, is still more slow and tedious than it remotely should be. It's not like the game is offensively bad, it's just, like I said, boring. It utterly lacks the sauce of the movie, so all you're left with is this very bland, very slow, very easy game, and sadly there's not even much more to say about it than that. At least it's not like a flaming dumpster fire, but I can't imagine anyone having much fun playing this. Okay, well, even if they weren't all keepers, I think I am gonna crash out with this game. I had a lot of fun trying these games out, and I'd like to try more in the future to see what possible gems I can find. I think my next task might be license games for Nintendo consoles like the DS, so let me know in the comments if there's anything you think I should check out. Also, before I go, a big thank you to LitNXT for sponsoring me and sending me this Miyoo Mini to try out. For a while, I'd been hearing a lot about all kinds of retro handhelds like this one, so I was pretty interested in trying one out for myself. It came with a SanDisk SD card, a USB adapter, a charger, a pre-installed OS, and it also came with a ton of retro games on it, so I didn't have to do literally anything. And if you want, you can even get different colored buttons to customize it like these pink ones I got. Please act surprised that I picked the pink buttons, okay? After trying it out a bit, I'm definitely getting why people like these things so much, so if you're interested in getting a Miyoo Mini, you can use my referral link in the description, and you can also use my code YewfNet for 10% off your order. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and thank you to my members and patrons as always. I'll see you next time, bye!